Greetings to all of you lovely people, my loving friends. I feel blessed to be here with you one more time and discuss some of the most important things that happen in life, and sometimes we're not just paying attention to them. So my intention, my purpose is to bring more attention to certain subjects that affect us on a daily basis. I'm Dr. Daniel Sadigh, a clinical psychologist and licensed marriage and family therapist in Los Angeles, speaking to you from my heart about these subjects. And for today, the subject of standing up to forces against us. Everyone goes through life feeling some pressures, feeling some adversities, feeling some difficulties in day-to-day life. Part of it is normal. We are born to just go through this life, challenge everything that comes on our way. And while we're challenging them, at the same time, we would like to be joyful. Our purpose of life is not suffering, it's enjoying life. And the more we know about how to manage ourselves, to have this joy, the better we can have this purpose achieved and fulfill our life mission of joyfulness. So standing up to forces is one of those ways that we can be more joyful in life, because we are not going to be allowing adversities and difficulties break us down. We are able to stand up to situations by making ourselves stronger, and it's not only in the physical way. The physical way of getting stronger, it's one way, which we just need to bring our immune system to a higher degree, so diseases or difficulties which are of physical nature cannot affect us gravely. However, the emotional issues are the ones that we do not have a clear answer to, and how we can achieve standing up to these difficulties. Some of these difficulties come from inside of us. We have feelings that these feelings are like sadness, anger, feelings of disappointment, feelings of being betrayed or forced or coerced into doing something. These feelings are internal, and we need to deal with them and try to make them go away without suppressing them. And then some of these feelings come up because of external situations. We are financially at a bad position, or our relationships are broken. The feelings are internal on those also, but then the external forces of, let's say, abuse or physical challenges that we are experiencing in relationships. These are issues that they come also as adversities and forces against us. And we need to learn how to be able to stand up to these issues. Well, each one of us has a different way of doing it based upon 4 different models. Our survival-based brain, our midbrain, provides us a way of defending ourselves against these difficulties and adversities. The first one is fighting the situation. So if I figure out somebody standing up to me, they are pushing me, or they are making me attend to something that I don't want to, this pressure or this force is something that I would like to withhold, and I would like to push back. So I will become aggressive, and I push back, and I don't let the other person affect me or direct me to the direction that they want. Well, the difficulty with this situation is that as I'm pushing back, the other person or the other people are going to react towards me, and they push further, and then I need to push more. So this becomes a war. This becomes how all of the wars are happening. Somebody is invading somebody else's boundaries or privacy, and then the other person is pushing back, and then before you know it, the two forces are fighting each other, and that's where all of the battles are happening, even in our relationships. So pushing back is not going to be the answer, because aggressive way of doing is bringing us more aggression. and we are going to be involved in more of feuds and quarrels and discomforts that are pursuing us after that. So what are we going to do? Well, aggressiveness is not going to work. The other way that many of us are geared to deal with adversities is to just go back, be passive, not face the situation, do not be confrontational, escape or leave the situation. Well, the difficulty with that situation is that once we are not facing the situation, then the invasion continues and we become more marginalized, more minimized, more under pressure, and eventually at some point we'll be breaking down and going to be either reacting or really being destroyed and distracted. Well, that's not a good solution, is it? We don't want to be passive, because through passivity we're just going back and back and back to a point that things are not going to be acceptable at all, and then that's the point that everything will fall apart and the whole hell breaks loose on us. That's going to be creating at the same time a lot of depressed feelings and sadness, because our feelings are more and more inside of us, pressed down, and we cannot really deal with those feelings, and those feelings regretfully turn out to diseases and other suffering, so we'll be suffering more. The third way that some people are dealing with the adversities and the forces against them, called passive aggressive. And passive aggressive is a combination of both of these issues that we discussed. Many of the people around us regretfully are passive aggressive. We can say a good 65% of people, 60% of people around us react in passive aggressive ways, which is kind of manipulative at the same time. The reason that this is not going to work is that it's very confusing and creates more chaos. Let's say how this works. If I'm passive aggressive, I'm not going to be confronting the aggression or the invasion or the intrusion. So by not really directly standing up to this force, I will just go sideways and I go from behind, and then I try to attack from the back. So that means that I'm being tricky. I'm not dealing with the issue yet. I feel hurt. I would like to have a revenge. I would like to get back at the situation. So I will be indirectly affecting the outcome by planning, by doing things that are not in the clear, and the other person will be surprised by our action. And now they feel they have the right, because they think that, well, this person didn't say what they wanted to say, didn't do what they needed to do, and now they're revenging or they're being aggressive towards me in a way that is not acceptable. The passive aggressive is like the people who are, not saying anything in a relationship, but for example, they're cheating on their spouses. That's a passive aggressive way of dealing in a relationship. Or another way of being passive aggressive is like, I'm not really feeling well with what my friend is doing to me, and then instead of talking to this person, I go behind their back and talk to our mutual friends, and I say nasty things about this person. Well, these are common things that people do, and regretfully, these are not the best ways of dealing with situations, because they create more and more chaos, uncertainty, difficulty in the relationship. Well, you may be asking then, if these three are not working, what is going to work? There is a fourth way, which is a road less traveled, and that's why we are discussing it today, because this system, this model of being, is called assertive, and often enough we confuse assertive with aggressive. We think that if we're assertive, we're still being aggressive and we're still pushing back. No, it's not like that. When we're being assertive means that I understand where I'm standing, what my limitations are, I'm respectful to other people's limitations, values, beliefs, what they want. So in between us there is a boundary, and this boundary is where we can negotiate over to which direction to go. So in my position and your position, we will be needing to find a neutral position that both of us can be interacting and reaching some agreements. Assertive personalities are not very often seen because it's a learning process. Most of us come from backgrounds of aggressive or passive aggressive, and these are the ways that we have learned how to communicate. And through this type of communication, guess what happens? Uncertainty, sadness, anger, and a lot of other feelings that are not resolved. But then if we are dealing with situation in an assertive way, I'm able to tell you how I feel, you're able to tell me how you feel, and then based upon both of our feelings, we can find a resolution that either could be a win-win situation or we can agree to disagree. That means that we cannot find a common ground and we can always come back to a new situation that maybe a new condition is added or taken away, and now we can resolve the situation. Well, boundaries is really important, because if we do not respect these boundaries, relationships are not going to be valuable, and aggression or passivity or both of them are going to take shape. Bring ourselves back to where we are comfortable and where I can see that you want to be is going to be the answer to this difficulty. We can only do this if we're confident about what we're doing. We need to be clear about what we're doing. We need to be concise about what we're doing. So this type of personality or assertiveness requires a certain elements in order to reduce conflict and reduce tension and reduce problems, improve relationships. The communication that is based upon assertivity is called assertive communication, which means that this is a way that we can be effectively talking, discussing, making situations better for us. There are 10 points that I have prepared for you today to discuss how this assertivity is possible. Number one is our commitment to be positively involved in assertiveness. That means if I'm convincing you that assertiveness is a good solution and you believe me that that is the best way of being, then you really take it to heart and you go and you deal with situations in that assertive way. You commit yourself. Even if you make a mistake, if you're not being assertive and you've been passive or aggressive, you can always catch yourself and realize this is not within the commitment that I have to assertivity. I didn't say what I needed to do to say, so now I can pick up the phone and talk to my friend and say, okay, I'm sorry that I didn't say what I was really feeling, but I want you to know, with all due respect to you, I felt hurt when you didn't show up to our date the other day. Okay, rather than not calling them back or not saying anything, which is still passivity, right? So the commitment that we make to this way of being assertive is the number one subject of our conversation. Number two is being transparent. We've talked about that. Being open, being honest about who we are. We cannot be behind the block, behind the wall, and then show up, because we cannot be seen. So that way of vulnerability that allows us to be seen and not be scared of being naked in front of others is really important. Because now if we're open to situations and we're not afraid, we're showing confidence, and that's one way of being assertive. Listening actively. A lot of times we are communicating, but we are not assertive in this communication, because while the other person is speaking, now I'm planning in my own head what I'm going to be saying after this, how I'm going to deal with this person if they say this or that, what is going to happen if I agree or disagree. So my thoughts will be involved in the future of this relationship or the conversation, and meanwhile I'm not really listening to what the other person is saying. I'm not paying attention to what is being required. And you can see that without being actively listening, a lot of misunderstandings, misconceptions are going to be happening, and people are not going to be comfortable with us. Number 4, we mentioned it a little bit, agree to disagree. Okay, we cannot agree with everything, but we can agree with not agreeing with someone, which is a show of maturity, that we are not fighting with each other because we don't agree, but we can understand that each one has a different position. Let's use that in today's politics. We have Democrats and Republicans who are blaming each other, cursing at each other, which is really, really, really sad and ineffective. However, if we can respect each other and understand each one has values, beliefs that may be different from us, but still we need to respect each other, that would be a different situation. That is agreeing to disagree, right? Because we're both on different sides. Yes, we agree that we're not going to be seeing the situation through the same lens. Next one is something that we have discussed in many of our programs, is understanding your feelings. Without knowing our feelings, we don't know where we are. And if we don't know where we are, we cannot really communicate with anyone about our situation. Our feelings are just a location of us at the moment. And we need to realize the names of those feelings so we can declare them. Without knowing feelings, we cannot have assertive communication. Because now, without being clear about where I am, the other person will be in doubt. So if I don't share my feelings with you, imagine what will happen to you. You make some assumptions, you go to a different direction, which I feel that you're ignoring me completely. I become more distant and our relationship gets worse. You see? So that's not going to be working. Next one is not making the other person feel guilty or wrong. Often enough, when we would like to strengthen our situation or position, we come down at someone by accusing them of something, finding them wrong, judging them in a negative way, or ignoring their feelings, which is going to be really hurtful. We cannot make somebody feel guilty about who they are, ashamed of who they are. These are the points that a relationship can be easily broken. So in order to be respectful and protective and be assertive in relationship, we would like to make sure that the other person or the people across from us are not feeling undermined, guilty, or ashamed, or anything else. Well, the other point is that being aware of yourself. That's a self-acknowledgement, the way that we can see where we are and what is it that we want, what are our beliefs. We need to know ourselves. Before knowing ourselves, we're not going to be able to be in effective relationships or assertive relationships. If I don't know who I am, if I don't know what my weaknesses are or what my strengths are, how can I stand up? I need to know my possessions, my abilities, my ways of being able to deal with situations. If I don't know these, then it's going to be wobbly and shaky. The next one is using I statements. In I statements, we're using the feelings in a way that I'm responsible for what's happening, which covers a few of the things that we said. So first, I'm talking about my feeling, which is just mine, and it's not accusing you of doing something that makes me feel that way. So if we say you make me feel angry, that would not be a way of communication in an assertive way. The assertive way is that I feel angered when I see someone does this. Okay, which is not accusing of the person, it's what happens to me when something happens to me, which is a huge difference. Because in the other way, if I say you make me feel angry, the other person is going to be defending him or herself and saying, no, I didn't do that, you're an angry person yourself, what are you talking about, I just sat here quietly. So they will come up with their reasons for not making us angry, and then I'm still feeling angry and the anger is mine, and if I want to fight with that, that's going to be even more problems. So you see, that's not going to work. Acknowledgement is another way that we would like to be in relationships in an assertive way. So if I see something positive in you, about you, I need to acknowledge that. If I'm not going to talk about the positives about you and I only focus on the negatives between us, imagine what happens. We get further apart and we lose respect for each other. So acknowledgement is really an important part of an effective communication in an assertive way. Assertivity requires that. In order to be assertive, we need to be able to see the good along with the bad and able to talk about the good as well. Well, the last one that I want to talk about is something that we always talk about, breathing. Okay. So in order to be confident, in order to be assertive, if our mind is coming from the anxiety or stress of survival, imagine what happens. We go to the first three that we said is not effective: aggressive, passive, or passive aggressive. So through breathing, we can take a step back. Breathing from the nose into the belly and out from the mouth. A few of these breaths resets you. You just stay back, and now you can remember that I'm committed to the first one. I'm committed to assertivity. So we can just bring ourselves back into the loop of assertiveness. Don't forget the breathing, because breathing is the first element. If you would like to learn more about the breathing, in my book, Balancing the Wheel, there is a whole chapter about different ways of breathing for different reasons and how each breathing brings us a different way of relaxation or energy and empowerment. Through breathing, we can really regulate our body and our responses rather than our reactions. I highly recommend reading this part of the book. It is on Audible books. You can go to audiobooks.com and get the book, or you can get it on Amazon, Balancing the Wheel. The chapters about breathing are really important. I highly recommend. In the audio version, you have exercises that are live, and you can just use those exercises as well. Well, my work in Wheel of Wellbeing is creating more balance, and balance is the one thing that I believe that brings everything to equanimity or a certain equilibrium, the way that things are not harsh, they're not going to be aggressive or passive. In that equanimity, we can be assertive and we can be standing up to anything that comes towards us. Physical challenges, mental challenges, emotional challenges, our relationship difficulties, or even recreational difficulties, which could be like addictions or habits that are not conducive to our health, or our environment, how our environment can be a force against us, and we can still stand up and manage to deal with that. Spirituality, if we are just feeling we are cursed or we are having bad luck, that is not standing up to the force of spirituality, because if we are really connected, that connection shows us that we can always stand up and we can always face the difficulties in front of us. And financial, how we can be balanced creates a way that we can create more success, more freedom, more wealth, more health, and our values are more and more and more. So assertiveness is really important. I cannot emphasize it enough. It's not something that we often have been familiar with, and I'm hoping that through this program and understanding the concepts, maybe you can start looking at this a little bit more carefully. I'm here to support you in any form that you would like. You're more than welcome to be in touch with me and Coach Bonnie in Wheel of Wellbeing. We are here to give you any support from personal training, coaching, or our online courses. If you go to wheelofwellbeing.com, there is a wheel quiz or wheel test, which by taking this test, you can see how well balanced you are. And if there are any areas that you need more balance, stand up to the challenge and make yourself more balanced. We show you every material that you need is included in a package that we have for you in Wheel Select, and you're more than welcome to look into it and let us know how we can be of support. I wish you a beautiful day, and I'm looking forward to being here with you in other occasions and speaking about other subjects that are important to humanity and well-being. Have a blessed day. Raise your vibration and re-engage with life. Find balance and reconnect with joy. Your vehicle is balancing the wheel, and we're here to support you in becoming more happier, healthier, and successful. wheelofwellbeing.com or drsadigh.com.